Guys, has anyone seen that movie with like the weird fox tiger thing that's like... What? It's a panda? It looks like a fox. Well, it looks a little weird to me, but anyways, how are you guys doing? Good? Good? There's a lot of you. I feel like we're a little crazy. I feel like we're a little crazy right now. So everyone stand up. Everyone stand up where you're at. Don't stand on your chair though. Get off your chair though. You have to get off your chair. Okay, everyone has to be quiet though for this to work. Okay. We're all gonna breathe in. Ready? And then when you breathe out, you're gonna sit down. Sweet. Okay, but the point of that was like you be quiet. Shh. Guys, calm down. Calm down. Calm down. Shh. Anyways, I hope you guys are doing well. If you don't know me, my name is Savannah. I'm the middle school intern here, so I get to hang out with all of y'all and our lovely friend Bryce. He's pretty great too. But we're in a series that we started last week on friends, and Bryce kind of started us off talking about this idea of who you allow into your life, kind of who you influences and talks to you in your life, kind of turns you into that person or into the actions and the things that they do. But this week we're going to look at what it looks like to make good friends. How to make good friends. I think the idea is that all of us in our life, we have friends, or the goal is to have good friends that care about us, that we can care about. We all want that. But I think sometimes it's hard because we don't know maybe what to look for in those good friends. We don't know how or what good characteristics are in good friends. And so I kind of, based on my experience in my life and kind of how I have dealt with friendships and relationships in my life, I kind of have 3 steps that I'm going to walk you through tonight on kind of my 3 steps that I'm trying to follow even right now in my life with friendships and relationships. And so I wanted to share it with you guys because I know a lot of you have friends, you have people in your life, but we're going to answer the question of, are they actually good for you? Before we get started, I'm just going to pray for us and just allow God to speak in this room tonight. Dear Jesus, I just thank you for every middle schooler in this room. I thank you just for their hearts to come here to just be crazy, have fun in worship, but also to just take some time to just learn a little bit more about the God that they follow and the God that they know. I pray that they would just learn something new tonight from you, and that it wouldn't be about what I'm talking about or me with a microphone on the stage, but it would be about what you want to speak to these middle schoolers. We love you, God. Amen. All right, so I have kind of 3 steps, 3 ways to go about this. I'm no like professional, and this isn't like something, like there's many ways to figure out how to make good friends. Quiet down, quiet down. You guys are doing great. But these are kind of 3 steps that I've seen and experienced in my relationships and in my friendships. And the very first one, before doing anything, before going out and even looking for the good friends or the people that you want in your life, the very first step, step 1, is to be a good friend. So we have to start with ourselves. We have to look internally at our hearts and our minds and who we are and how we can be good friends to other people. So I have a couple of Bible verses I'm going to share that kind of go along with this idea and can give you kind of an idea of ways you can be a better friend or a good friend maybe than you are right now, or just in the future with relationships. So Matthew 7:12, it says, do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. Has anyone heard that? Like the golden rule, like treat people the way you want to be treated? Yeah. Well, I think it's probably one of the hardest rules for all of us because we have to treat people the way we want to be treated. But sometimes it's easier to go and gossip about them. It's easier to go and say these things about them or talk to them behind their back, or to go spread these rumors with other people because we think it's funny or we'll fit in better if we do that. But then when it happens to us, it's like they're the worst person in the entire world. But when we go do it, it's okay. Like it's fun, it's funny, like people think we're cool. But if someone does it to us, like it's game over. But Matthew 7:12 says, do to others whatever you would like them to do to you. So if you don't want people going and gossiping about you, if you don't want people bullying you, if you don't want people hurting you or saying things about you, don't go and do exactly that. Treat your friends. To be a good friend is to treat them the way you would want to be treated. Ephesians 4:32 says, be kind to each other, tender-hearted, forgiving one another just as God through Christ has forgiven you. I love that first line. It says, be kind to each other. It's literally as simple as that. Be kind to each other. I know the last couple of years with the pandemic and being isolated from people and having to make new friends or talk to new people or maybe not talk to people, there's been a lot of people just butting heads and not being kind to each other. Maybe in middle school it's easy for you. I hear all the time there's gossip and there's drama and everyone knowing everything about everyone. And I've heard some not nice things. But it just says be kind to each other. It's not a hard thing to do. Be kind to each other, tender-hearted. It also says forgiving one another. You're going to have friends and you're going to have relationships and you're going to have people in your life who let you down, who hurt you, who maybe say those mean things or maybe gossip or maybe do those things that you don't like and that hurt you. It's just the reality of us being human. But Ephesians is saying, forgive one another just as God through Christ has forgiven you. To be a good friend means being kind to each other, tenderhearted, and forgiving one another when people let you down and when people hurt you. And the last kind of verses I want to look at, I think we kind of looked at this in a series a while ago. But I feel like this really helps us kind of get a perspective on who we are in our relationships, not just with friends, but in general, and who we can grow to be. So we're going to look at 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7. It says, love is patient, love is kind. It does not envy, it does not boast. It is not proud, it does not dishonor others, it is not self-seeking, it is not easily angered, it keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, and always perseveres. So that's a long thing, but this really cool thing I learned how to do, and I'm pretty sure we've done it before, but I want to do this when we're looking at this idea of how we can be good friends and how we can be good people in our relationships. So if you guys want to pull the blank. Yep, perfect. So what we're going to do now is you see. I'm so glad you know it. So what we're going to do now, what I want you to do is now that there's blanks, there's no love. So what I want you to do is you're going to put your name in every blank spot. So for me, I would say Savannah is patient, Savannah is kind, Savannah does not envy, and so on. And so what I want you to do is look at this and put your name in there. And maybe there's spots in there that you notice you feel like you can't really fill. Like for me, I don't feel like I'm always patient. especially when I'm driving, and if there's a really slow driver going like 10 miles under, I don't feel so patient. And then that turns into maybe not feeling so kind. And so maybe you look at this and realize your name doesn't fill every line. But the point of that is that's okay, because there's room for growth in that. So maybe in relationships and friendships, you don't always find yourself feeling like you're patient with your friend. You're not always kind. Sometimes you are self-seeking. Or maybe you're easily angered. I know sometimes I can get really angry with people. And sometimes it just comes out at them. And so that's something I need to work on. But I want you to see the spots where maybe you could be practicing and growing in your relationships, in your friendships. And this is just a piece of how you can look at your life, how you can look at who you are, and how you can be a good friend. All right, step 2. Now that we've kind of seen a little bit of how we can be good friends, now let's look outward at the people around us in our lives. Maybe at the friends you already have, or maybe the friends that there's people around you that could be good friends for you. But step 2 is looking at what good friends are. So let's kind of like define it a little bit. We're going to look at a story in the Bible, and we're going to look at 2 guys who became these really, really close friends. And because of that, you could see their friendship, and you could see how they were good for each other. We're going to be looking at a story in 1 Samuel about a guy named David, which if you guys were here for the Tug of War series, we talked about David and how he went and he fought the giant. And so we're going to be looking at his friendship, his relationship with this guy named Jonathan. And so we're going to be in 1 Samuel 20. And so as you guys know, in 1 Samuel, David goes and he fights this giant, Goliath. And obviously he wins because he had God's strength in that. And he starts to become more and more popular. He starts winning more and fighting these people and having that victory. And more people are praising his name, and he's getting more known. And there's a guy named Saul who is like the king, and he doesn't like that. Why? Because he fears that if David becomes so popular, that it's possible that he could take his place. And so as any king would, to be protective, the only thing that he wants in this position of David is for David to be killed. Because he does not want David to have any advantage of becoming king. And so throughout 1 Samuel, as we're going through, just to kind of give you a backstory, King Saul is now trying to find ways and going out day after day to try and kill David. And we get to 1 Samuel 20, and this is when David and Jonathan kind of meet. And just to give you a little background, Jonathan is actually one of the sons of King Saul, so you kind of have that like relation there. And what's interesting is that King Saul actually figures this out, that they've met, that they've become friends. And it almost seems like they did that on purpose because he wants David around. Because then if he's friends with his son, it's a little bit easier to get to him and to kill him. And so as we see throughout this, as we keep going through this story, Saul continuously is trying to kill him, but he fails to do so. And we have Jonathan here, who is kind of that really good friend that you want in your life, because he's gonna stick it out with you. He's gonna be loyal to you. And he wanted to do anything and everything that he could do to protect David from being killed. And so David comes to him and is like, hey, your dad, he's trying to kill me. And at first, Jonathan doesn't really believe him because he's like, that's my dad, like he would never do that. But David's like, please go to your father and figure out what's actually going on. And in 1 Samuel 20, verse 8, David says this. He says, "Show me this loyalty as my sworn friend, for we made a pact before the Lord. Or kill me yourself if I have sinned against your father. But please don't betray me to him." I love that first part. It says, "Show me this loyalty as my sworn friend." So David's like, I know we're friends, so prove it. Like, prove that you're loyal, prove that you are really a good friend, and prove that you want this for me. And so, of course, Jonathan loves David, and he wants to do everything that he can to protect him and to make sure that he doesn't die. And so he goes to his father. He figures out that it's true that he actually is trying to kill him. And so he comes back out to David, and he tells him what's going on. And he knows that he has to protect David and to get him as far away as possible. And so in 1 Samuel 20, 41 through 42, it says, "As soon as the boy was gone, David came out from where he had been hiding near the stone pile. Then David bowed 3 times to Jonathan with his face to the ground. Both of them were in tears as they embraced each other and said goodbye, especially David. At last, Jonathan said to David, 'Go in peace, for we have sworn loyalty to each other in the Lord's name. The Lord is the witness of a bond between us and our children forever.' Then David left, and Jonathan returned to the town." So why this story is important, why I tell you this story, is because we can see so clearly the person that Jonathan was to David. David was in this unknown and scary situation that he felt like he had no way out, and Jonathan was right there and said, "What can I do? What do you need? How can I be loyal to you?" And when we think about you guys as middle schoolers right now, thinking about the people in your life that you're bringing in, just like we talked about last week, like if you're bringing in good people or if you're not bringing in wise people. Thinking about people like Jonathan, who was loyal, who was selfless, who would have done anything to protect David. And I want you to think about if you have people like that. If there are genuine people in your life who would go to any lengths to do anything for you, who would stay loyal to promises that they've made or things that you have agreed on in your friendship or in your relationship. Because it's important that we find these people. It's important that we have these relationships. I think we live in such a society and an environment where we want to feel seen. We want to feel accepted and loved and heard. And so I think sometimes what we do, and I know I do this all the time, is I think we go to people and we ask them to be our friends or be a part of our life or be a part of our story. But I think sometimes we ask them to make us feel seen or to make us feel heard. And sometimes it doesn't actually end up being this genuine friendship, like David and Jonathan. I think sometimes we just want that security, or we want that person in our life to fill those boxes. But I want you to know, and I want you to realize tonight, is that good friendship isn't built on convenience. Good friendship isn't built on convenience, but it's built on commitment. And what I mean by this is that we don't just have the people in our life, and God doesn't ask us to just have friends and people and community around us in our life just for the convenience of having them, just so they can make us feel happier or feel seen or accepted. We should want to have those good friendships, those good, honest relationships in our life and commit to them, to be honest and to be like Jonathan and David, where Jonathan would do anything for his friends, to love on them and to be there for them. And so that brings me to step 3. We're kind of figuring out who we need to be. We're figuring out what good friends can look like. And now that we're finding those good friends, the next step is keeping them. So we found them. We're figuring out if they're actually good for us, if they reflect Jesus, if they're good people in our life, if they lift us up rather than tear us down, if they're more than just this convenience, if they're more people we want to do life with, the good, the bad, the ugly. These people we can trust, these people who will not lie to us, who will not gossip about us, who will not do harmful things to us. Building these friendships that we can have as long as we can have them. And now the next step is looking at how do we keep these friendships and these relationships in our lives. Of course, I'm not going to lie to you and say that every friendship will last forever, because it's not the truth. Sometimes relationships just end. Sometimes distance creates the end of a friendship or a relationship in our life. But sometimes there's people that God has put in your life, and maybe you haven't even realized that they're good for you, that they could be good for you, but you haven't let them in yet. Or maybe you have relationships right now, but something hard has happened, so it's easier to just give up. You're like, well, you hurt me, you judged me, you did this, so I can't forgive you. I'm just going to let you go, just going to forget about you. But then you realize you've done that with every single other relationship in your life. And nothing's changing. You're not actually doing anything to help restore or to help that relationship thrive. And of course, if you've seen me teach before, I do visuals. So I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a visual to represent this. So this balloon is all of you. This balloon is me, this balloon is Bryce, this balloon is Crispy, this balloon is you, and you, and you, and you, and you. This is our life with our friends. This is our life with our relationships. We're living life, we're full of life, full of air. Get it? Balloon joke. It's great. But this is us. This is us living life with our friends, with our people, with our relationships. But what happens is when we don't take it serious and we just use these friends and these relationships as convenience and not as a commitment. And when we don't start actually doing things in the relationship instead of just giving it up, what happens is we feel like we're carrying so much. We feel like it's easier to give up because we don't want to have to keep carrying things and have to keep worrying about the friendship. We feel like there's no point in continuing it. And what happens is we start to get a little burnout. And eventually, we get so burnt out. It wasn't supposed to pop, by the way. It was supposed to just slowly deflate, but it's fine. Guys, don't worry, you're not going to explode. But what happens is when you don't actually take time and effort in relationships and friendships that could be good and that could matter, you slowly start to deflate, which was supposed to happen. It's fine. But eventually, it just keeps happening like that. And there's only so much air that can fit in a balloon. There's only so much in your cup that you can hold. And so eventually, if you keep doing this in relationships, then it looks like this. And it's a little sad. And feels lonely. And I know a lot of people in this life right now probably feel lonely. But if you decide that relationships actually mean something to you and actually matter, and you don't just need it for some convenience, then you got this happy guy. Guys, I drew it myself. It's great.
It's beautiful. I love it, Savannah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's so pretty.
But then you have this guy. You have yourself again. And if you decide that you find these relationships that you want to keep and you want to grow, and even when hard things happen, even when drama happens, even when they're mean to you or hurt you or let you down, which they will, if you decide to take that friendship or that relationship and say, hey, let's put in these things called boundaries. Let's put up these rails for protection so that our friendship doesn't just end up like this. And what happens is when you start doing that and when you start taking care of the relationship, even when it's hard, even when you feel like giving up, even when you feel like the friend isn't even that important, if you start to do that, even when things get hard, you might flip over and things get hard. But what happens is when you start adding things into your relationship, and trying to grow and trying to create boundaries and trying to figure out the things that you really need, what starts to happen, got my little fun piece of paper here, guys. It's like an art project. What starts to happen is you're adding those things on. And what happens is the people in your life and the friends in your life, they'll stay around. Maybe not all of them, because not every person is going to be in your same season of life. But a lot of times, the close friends in your life, the ones that you take serious, the relationships in your life that you pour into and care about, they'll stay with you. And they'll mean something because you've taken time to care about it. Sorry, worship team. And so I hope that made sense. Oh, that didn't work. I really wanted that to work. It's fine. Hold on, we're almost done. We're almost done. Guys, this is horrible. It's fine. I hope that made sense because the point of that is that when you take time in your friendships, when you learn that step 1 and step 2 of how to be a good friend and how to find those good people who actually mean something, and when you get into the thick of those relationships, you take time to actually focus on those good relationships, then you'll have those relationships for a long time. You won't just give up. I'll be honest and open with you guys, and the band can come back up. I'm actually dealing with this right now in my life, where I have 2 really close friends, and both have been like my best friends for about 2 years. And this last year, a couple months ago, things happened. Drama happened. A lot went on. And one of those friends, her and I became distant. And I think what happened is we kind of were like that sad balloon on the ground where we were so busy with our lives, we were so busy with everything going on that we just stopped caring about our relationship. And for me, I'm someone who gets in my head a lot, and I'm really anxious and wonder if they just don't like me or just hate me and just don't even care anymore. And I did what I did with this balloon. I gave up. I let that person go. And maybe you can relate to that. Maybe you've had relationships in your life where you've just let it go because it seems easier than trying to build it back up. But on the other hand, I have this other amazing friend who we still do life with, where we've created boundaries in our relationship, we've created guardrails, we've created this protection in our relationship where we know even when things get hard or when things get confusing or when we need space or we need distance, that we can come back together because we've built this relationship on our own. We've taken the time to make it matter because we care about each other even when life gets hard, even when things are confusing. And so find those good people. Don't just find those people that make you feel a certain way. Don't just find those people who say you're pretty or say you're enough. Because honestly, as middle schoolers, it's probably not as genuine as you think, unless you find the good people who will tell you that. And so find those good people. Be those good people. Because that's what we need. We need that here at Garage. We need that in your schools. We need that in Parker. We need that in the kingdom of God. We need those good people and those good friends, and God puts us in community for a reason. And so stop inviting toxic people or hard people to get along with, or people who just pull you down further. Stop turning into this every single day after school, because it's not fun. And I know it sucks. I have so many of you who come to me and you say, I feel alone, I feel anxious, I feel stuck. I feel like this person hates me. And it's because you're living like this. Stop living like this. Let's pray. Dear Jesus, I just thank you for these students. I thank you just for their hearts for you. I thank you that you call us to be in relationship. Not just with you, not just with our families, not just with our annoying siblings, but with friends. And there's a reason that you bring certain people into our lives in certain seasons. And my prayer is that these middle schoolers would see that. And that they can start growing in relationships, not just because they're in middle school, that they don't have to worry about that until they're older, but they start right now. Seeking out the good, healthy relationships. Not that they're going to always be easy, but that when they get hard, they know how to make the relationship last. So that they don't feel alone, that they don't feel anxious, that they don't feel depressed, and that they don't want to just give up on the relationship and give up on life. But that they would seek you through it. And that having that relationship will give them hope for more relationships and more friendships in their life. We love you, God. We thank you for what you're doing in the students' lives, whether they know you